Hey, today we're on Route 66 in New Mexico. Here we are, 1937 alignment. It's really the 1926 road, but it wasn't aligned with Route 66 till 1937. Anyway, we just left the town of Barton, a little ghost town. We're headed into the ghost town of Sedillo along Route 66. We're going to head up this hill, past a street called Vista Valley Drive. That's on the left. And then Brad Court. And at this point, Route 66 veered to the right to cut across Interstate 40 to the other side to Sedillo Hill Road. Hey, here we are at the top of the hill. There's Interstate 40, and this is our 1949 alignment right there. And here we have the Route 66 Travel Center. This is the highest point on Route 66 east of Albuquerque. Sits at 7,000 feet above sea level. So once it was Brad Comer's coffee shop at Sedillo Hill, probably built in the early 1950s after Route 66 was realigned here in 1949. And in 1958 it was owned by a guy named Werner Eisenhut. So it's a one-story stucco white building, had a terrific racing stripe trim right on the roof line. Comer's coffee shop sign right in front. And at the right was our Phillips 66 filling station, gas pump under the eaves. So today, Comer's is on Route 66, Sedillo Hill Travel Center that we find right here. And the layout of the main building, the service station, is basically the same. You know, it was 70 years ago with the main building here on the left and the service station on the right. There's not a whole lot to see up here. In Sedillo, it's getting real complicated, but if you ever made it to the other side of the freeway here, you would hit the 1937 road. It's a big windy road all the way on a street called Sedillo Hill Road. Anyway, it's really narrow, winding, replaced with the straighter road in 1949 and then replaced in 1960s with Interstate 40. Makes a big loop around that whole hillside out there. Lots of wonderful views, terrific country homes. Here's an old sketch of a road, probably at the address of 91 Sedillo Hill Road. That's where Route 66 bends back down to the current I-40. And a little ways up, in the old days, you'd have found the Sedillo Lodge and Trading Post. And that was probably from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And both were one-story adobe structures. The lodge on the left had a brick chimney and a corral in the center, little trading post on the right. And nothing is left of the buildings. So I think today just a little house sits on it. But for right now, we're going to head down Sedillo Hill to the town of Tijeras, about a half mile down on this, we'll call it the frontage road, which is Route 66, 1949. Now we're back on our 1949 alignment. We just turned out of the visitor center at the top of the hill. And it gets real confusing here and lots of tight turns and things. So on the right we have Interstate 40, and to the right of that, or north, is the 1937 Route 66 winding through the hills. And headed up here we're going to find a little road. It's called Tablazon Road. Let's see, this is called Sedillo Hill Road. This is where the 1937 road comes out and merges with our 1949 road. So right up there, that road, that's the 1937 alignment. It goes all throughout the hills there. Then later on it crosses back over to the right. So this road coming up, Tablazon Road, we're going to turn in here. There's a little viewpoint about what's been going on in this whole section of the road. All these roads out there. Okay, that was a little bit of historic Route 66 happening. So here we go, we're going to pull into Tablazon Road by these mailboxes. So a little section out here of Tablazon. This area is called Zuzax. Little community out here along the old Route 66. There's Interstate 40. And before Interstate 40 was put here, right about here, about 100 feet up, that was the Zuzax trading post, maybe 100 yards. You can't really see it today. But it sits between our road here and Interstate 40, but they had to rip it out. Anyways, Zuzax Trading Post and Curio Store is decorated with antlers on the roof, signs promoting curios and Indian goods. There's also a chairlift behind the store that climbed up the mountain, up to the top, way up there. Give you a great view of all these hillsides. Anyway, not there anymore, so that's kind of sad. We're gonna head a little further down to town of Tijeras. Hey, we're back on the 1949 alignment. Up there to our right, we're going to have our 1926 road way up there because it crisscrossed over Interstate 40 a bit back. So this road right here, this is where 1926 Zamora Road merges right back on to our 1949 road, just right there. Yeah. So just up here, right after Highway 14 on the left, we got Molly's Bar. We're going to check that out. Here we have Molly's Bar, opened in the early 1950s by Amalia Molly Simbala. And she originally owned previous restaurants out in Albuquerque, but her husband died and she remarried and moved out here to Tijeras in 1951. Opened up this beautiful bar, and there's a great sign right in the front we'll take a look at too. So Molly was the local justice of the peace and performed over 2,000 weddings. Here's the lounge right up here. Anyway, the original Molly's was torn down in 1974 to build the freeway off-ramp, but then she built her new building right over here, as you can see, 1974. She kept the original sign right here, complete fancy sign, got the little ball on top. There we go. So poor Molly's used to be kind of on the other side of the road. It got demolished, but we have new Molly's here, but that's all closed up too. So we're gonna head up ahead to a little mile marker monument on the side of the road. Let's take one last pass here at Molly's. We got the lounge here, and I don't know, it's called Package. That's where you buy your booze, I think. And a couple of rooms here. You want to stay at Molly's. Today it's the Military Family Museum. Hey, we got a little marker here. We're going to pull in and see what it says. Hey, here's our official scenic historical marker. Tijeras Canyon. This pass between the Sandia and Manzano Mountains has been a natural route for travel between eastern New Mexico and the Rio Grande Valley since prehistoric times. That's pretty cool. So Tijeras is Spanish for scissors. We're gonna head down here to the post office. There's some cool stuff right over there. So just past the post office, on the next road over, after this little railing thing, you see all that mumbo jumbo up there? We're gonna take a look and find our Santo Nino Church. Right there, beautiful church. Built in 1912, listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Originally it's called the Immaculate Conception Church. In 1935 it was renamed the Holy Child. 1971 a new church was built and the older one's no longer in service. That's our new church, or old church. That's a new one over here. In 1937 photograph looking south, this is what you would have seen with that 1937 alignment, which is now covered up by Interstate 40. The church there is on the left. Behind the church, back here, that's called the Luis Garcia Park and Veterans Monument. See a little Veterans Monument right there. All right, you get out and take a look at that. It's pretty neat. Anyway, it honors a local resident who was killed here in Sandia Park in 1999. That's a cute little place to visit along Route 66. Okay, so we're out of the church, back on Route 66. We're gonna head down about 0.8 miles. So along our road, there's nothing here anymore. It's all been torn down by Interstate 40. At one time, there was a 1932 gas station right about here, owned by Raymond Curtis. It's called the Oasis. It's right there. It was all torn down. It's a small box-shaped building with groceries, a couple of gas pumps up front. But it's not here anymore. No. Hey, so that's our little town here. And we're headed into what's called the town of Carnuel. This is the home of our Dead Man's Curve, which is right here. But we're going to head to the town so we find a place to stay and come back here for tomorrow.